Too stationary. For
Yes.
Before we get started, I'll just thank you real quick for meeting with me today instead of yesterday. We had the opportunity to take my son. He's 9. He's been a Miami Dolphins fan unexplainedly since he was like 4 years old. So we had a chance to take him to the game this weekend, and it was funny. A couple days before we surprised him for a birthday present and went, he was kind of like, I think I like the Buffalo Bills now. And I was like, listen, buddy, we can get your mom to get on a plane and go to Miami. It's 80 degrees there. Yeah. Buffalo, New York is out of question. Right? Let's stick with Miami.
That is not going to happen.
So thank you. I didn't get back until late yesterday. So.
Are we ready?
Ish. I'm gonna. Yeah, I left something in my car. It's no big deal. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll do roll call. I'm Mayor Russell. Councilmember Tim Burris.
I'm here.
Public Works Director James Clark.
Here.
City Planner Brad Spurlock.
Here.
And Police Chief Corey Jennison.
Here.
I'd like to seek approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Purpose of this meeting is conduct interview for the city attorney position. Public comments will not be accepted, and we will start the interview.
Great.
Do we want to go ahead and do it as we did yesterday?
That's fine.
Mr.
We need to.
Spurlock,
Okay.
would you mind kicking off for us?
All right. Thank you once again for coming out and visiting with us today, and we appreciate your willingness to listen. I do have some questions we're going to ask, and I will start this off. So first comment we're going to talk about is FOIA and records, record keeping. So what advice would you have for the city to ensure that we're compliant with our Freedom of Information Act? And also, how do you ensure compliance with Arkansas Freedom of Information requirements?
Sure. Well, thank you. It's interesting. I've had the opportunity to be on both sides of FOIA. When I was at the University of Arkansas, I was a frequent subject of Freedom of Information Act requests. My phone, text messages, and all that were FOIA'd frequently. There's just a lot of public interest in what I was doing at the time. So I've been both FOIA'd, then I've been on the other side where I've been reviewing and responding to FOIA requests. I think just being mindful of how records are maintained, how records are possessed and documented, and then just being communicative with your city attorney, I think, is what needs to probably be the best course of action. I know cities, municipalities, universities get FOIA'd all the time, so I know it's sort of an ongoing compliance issue, and I think that is sort of the key, is just always being mindful of times, how much time you have to respond, and just how those records are maintained and possessed on the front end, so that the FOIA compliance is easier. You know how to respond, you know what's responsive, and how to navigate those tricky issues when they come. And then just if you go the route where you ask for legal services for me, that you're just very communicative with me about those issues, I think. And if I didn't answer both parts of your question, let me know.
That's all right.
It's a compound question there. So
Yeah.
Arkansas Freedom of Information Act compliance, I know very statutorily heavy, just knowing what the rules are, which of course I will, and then just monitoring changes. It comes up every legislative session.
Sure.
They want to change that
Sure.
thing. So I think just staying on top of the changes too, and AG opinions.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next set of questions has to do with planning and zoning. So what advice would you have for the city council and the city of Tontitown as far as how to handle our rapid growth, looking at zoning changes?
Sure. Advice is going to be hard to give, broadly in this moment. I know as city planners and as city council, that's going to be in the forefront of your mind, is what the city is going to look like in 10 years. I think just being mindful of the statutory requirements of how cities can grow. I just think planning well on the legal side of the house is going to be important. Again, it's kind of a hard question to answer broadly about advice, but I think that has to be something that the city's looking 10, 20, 30, 40 years out at.
Sure.
It's not an immediate, but it's a long-term issue, and it's an issue that's going to require, I think, a lot of forethought.
Okay. So how would you advise on planning and zoning issues, maybe including land use disputes? How would you at least give us some recommendations or anecdotes that you've seen in the past?
Sure. It's going to be so situational. I'm not really on, you can look at my resume and my statement of qualifications and see I've not been on this side of the house very often as far as the land use issues go. But this Arkansas law on these issues, I think, is very statutorily heavy. So you're going to want to just look at the statutes. And again, I'm going to, if selected, I'm going to make myself knowledgeable of those very fast and just understand what the city's needs are. I mean, some of that's going to be hard for me to answer during this interview. I'm going to have to ask a lot of questions about maybe some of those more nuanced issues and plans and goals. So land use issues, I mean, anecdotally, sure, I have helped some friends with some property disputes in other municipalities, and here's how I think you should navigate these issues and stuff. I have been on the other side of this house just as free legal advice from my friends, but it is not one of the issues that I have not litigated many land use cases.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
What would be your approach in representing the city? And we can go a little broader on this, whether it's a code enforcement issue, a dispute with residents or businesses, if there's, we'll focus on city ordinance related issue between a business or a private citizen here in town. How would you handle with the city in those disputes?
Right. So I think to answer that question, I just always fulfilling my duties as city attorney to making sure that the city is following the law in all situations. I know the city is going to be doing what is best for it, and my role in that would be making sure the city is legally compliant in every area. So again, it really depends on the specific issue. If it's a dispute between two landowners or some sort of rezoning issue, again, I'm going to do my job to make sure that you guys understand what the law is as clearly as possible so that you can make those tough decisions. I mean, ultimately, you guys are responsible for your areas, and you're going to need an attorney who can give you clear and direct legal advice. And I mean, that's what I have done for a long period of time now, or at least it feels like a long period to me. But I have a police chief at my school, at the medical school, that calls me for issues all the time. So this is an area I'm very comfortable with, giving those sorts of situational advice and issues.
Do you have any experience prosecuting?
I do not, no. So just to be clear, my career has been, I would say, self-admittedly, very, very interesting and very different for attorneys. I've been in education, I've been in business, but I have steered clear of criminal law mostly through my career. I did some criminal law at Legal Aid of Arkansas, actually, on kind of an interesting side of the house, trying to get some laws declared unconstitutional. But just as far as prosecuting or criminal defense, that is not an area I've really navigated much in my career. Not to say I couldn't, but it's just calling it like it is. That's my experience.
Thank you.
Sure.
May I interject just a second? I thought that you tried a case in your first year. Is that
I did,
correct?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, I tried a jury trial, which was a criminal trial. And the story behind that was we were trying to get it before the Arkansas Supreme Court to have the court rule a section of the criminal code that we thought was being prosecuted very punitively against people. We were trying to get some favorable case law. So I did sue a municipality. I sued Mountain Home, Arkansas, because they were enforcing that law. And then ultimately, before I was able to reach a resolution in that case, the legislature changed the law. I think they knew it was going to go a certain route, so they changed the law, and that case was never fully litigated. But in order to get to that point, the way I'm telling you all this is we had to try several cases, and I tried a jury trial very, very early in my career. So I do have litigation experience, but it has not been the sort of main focus of my career. It's been sort of on the periphery or when necessary.
Thank you.
Sure.
What about, I'll just jump in and ask a couple quick more. Like we just finished a review. We try to do at least an annual, if not every 2 years, review of policies, procedures for us, any updates and all that. Are you comfortable reviewing on that? I mean, we are in the process of finishing our in-house review on it, but always like second set of eyes.
Oh, sure.
Comfortable and familiar
Absolutely. When I started the medical school 6 years ago, they had done a lot of stuff really well, getting a school off the ground, getting students, getting faculty and staff, building buildings, but there are no policies and procedures. So I've written policies and procedures for a medical school, for the University of Arkansas. I'm very comfortable in that territory. I learned last week that I've been appointed to a peer reviewer to the Higher Learning Commission, which means I'm going to have a role in looking at other institutions seeking out accreditation, looking at their policies and procedures and other documents to see that they're, compliant for accreditation. So this is actually one of my strong suits, is what I'm getting at.
What about experience in employment and employee law?
Very, very heavy experience there. I've been just basically within the HR department of the medical school, giving them advice nearly daily for 6 years. So hiring and firing issues, very, very comfortable. Disciplinary issues, I know how to navigate that. FMLA, ADA, all the employment law goodies are right up my alley.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
We usually have 2 meetings every month. Our first Tuesday of the month, we have our committee of the whole meeting. And on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, we have our city council meeting. Would you be available to be at both meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You said Tuesdays for both, right?
Tuesdays.
Okay.
at
Yes.
6
Yes.
o'clock for both,
Currently,
correct.
that's not an issue with my schedule.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, and just to briefly address the schedule issue, so it's not unclear, I don't think, in my resume. I am employed full-time as general counsel for the medical school. That's in Fort Smith, but I am very heavily sort of hybrid. I go down there when necessary. I work remote when necessary. I mean, I operate a very hybrid schedule, but evenings, hardly ever am I out of pocket in the evenings. I mean, like my son's basketball practice and stuff, things that can easily be moved, but I don't have work obligations in the evenings typically.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
How would you handle a legal issue during a meeting?
During the meeting?
During a city council meeting, if an issue came up, how would you handle that?
Yeah,
Would you-
so I know like real-time legal advice is always probably the gold standard, right? You want to have an answer in the moment when something's going on, and it's, if possible, of course, that's the way I operate within meetings, within board of trustee meetings, within executive committee meetings in my institution. If I know the answer, I'm going to tell you what I think the answer is. If I don't, I'm also going to tell you that. I'm not a person who's afraid to say, I don't know, but let me look. So if there was a complex issue, if there was something that needed research and opinion, I would simply say, let's take this up if I can get, as soon as I can get an answer for you. Maybe the answer is by the end of the meeting, maybe it's a business day or two, but I think it just depends on the question and how complex it is and how potentially risky that course of action would be, right? So just I hate this answer, but it just depends, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
This is not on my list here, but I'm going to go off grid here.
Go off script as much as you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like for you to tell us your ties to Tontitown. I know that we had spoken out in the hallway, and I was very interested.
Yeah,
in that.
sure. And it's nothing other than just a little bit more about me. I grew up in Springdale. I graduated Springdale High School. I've been in this community all my life, but for my time going to the University of Arkansas. So very familiar with this community. My dad was the fire chief of Tontitown, and I want to say it was like for 3 months, maybe no more than 6 months in the late aughts. He was a career fireman and fire administrator. He retired, I think, in 2006 from Fayetteville as a battalion chief, and then I don't know how it happened, but he became Tontitown's fire chief, and then think he decided he liked retirement better. It didn't last very long. But I've just been in this community. I mean, I've spent time here literally my entire life, almost 40 years. So I've been here a bit.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Clark?
How would you ensure that a city is protected in agreements with developers?
I think strong contractual drafting, making sure, doing due diligence with developers, the people you're doing business with. Again, this is an area of, property development and these types of issues are issues I'm comfortable with. Contractual negotiation and drafting is something I do a lot of. But I think that's the answer, is just knowing who you're doing business with and then making sure that you have legal protections in place for wrongdoers who don't fulfill their contractual obligations. I mean, it's just a matter of, I think, strong business practices in those regards. I know I'm answering that at really, really broad level, so happy to take any follow-ups on that.
have you ever sued a city? I think you said earlier that you did, but didn't,
Yeah. So just elaborating on that, I've never been a heavy litigator. My career is just not taking me in those directions. When necessary, I'm comfortable in a courtroom. Got a case dismissed last week against the medical school, actually. So I'm comfortable in those regards, but I've never been, the kind of attorney who says, "Oh, I'm in criminal defense. I'm an injury attorney. All I do are sue hospitals and doctors." I've just had a career that's taken me, and I think in my opinion, cooler places than doing some of that stuff. I just have enjoyed what I've done more than being a litigator who just sues and, tries to collect attorney fees. Nothing against those people. It's just not been my career.
nothing specific with developers?
No. Again, we were trying to, Legal Aid of Arkansas saw a subset of our client base being really hurt by a law, and we wanted to get it declared unconstitutional, so I sued the city. And then I left for the University of Arkansas position before that was there's resolution on that. Sure.
You're an impressive specimen. I'm sure you've heard that before.
I don't know that I agree, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Oh, well, I appreciate the false humility, but that's fine.
Not false.
Okay, if you say so. That's fine. It seems to be legit. But, I mean, you have plenty that you can point to, and at least from a worldly sense, we can look at your accomplishments and say, hey, well done. So you don't need to be embarrassed about any of that. I don't intend to embarrass you, but just a cursory glance. You were the Title IX coordinator for the U of A. You were in the inaugural class of the Clinton School of Public Service Academy. 40 under 40 from Talk Business and Politics. You have. I haven't been able to prove this one, but I also heard you finished the top of your class at University of Arkansas Law School. You interned at RMP, one of the best law firms in the state. You're the kind of guy who could do anything you wanted. The world's your oyster. And I don't in any way intend to second guess what you've chosen to do. But some of that I find a little bit of a head scratcher.
Sure.
So I'm going to leave it open-ended, but I'm curious how you got from there, or however old you were when you thought, I want to be an attorney one day, to where you are now. And by the way, being the vice president and general counsel at ACHE, that's phenomenal in and of its own right. But I'm just curious.
Sure.
For a young fella.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Again, I do appreciate the comments, and if without addressing the comments, I think that I have done my best to be accountable and trustworthy. And I think if you can be an attorney who speaks clearly, who tells people what the law is, and then doesn't just say no, period, but like, no, maybe we go this route, or no, maybe this would be possible. I think if you're just, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, if you're personable, if you are accountable, if you're trustworthy and reliable, my experience has been people have wanted to take legal advice from me, and that has fortunately, my career has benefited from that, and I've got to do some cool stuff. I just think that doing what is right for me, and I think what is ethical has been what I've always done. I think it's worked.
And is this where, whatever tender age you determined you wanted to be an attorney, is this what you foresaw? Is this what you were aiming for?
When I was going through law school, I kind of didn't know, but I met some really smart lawyers who worked for the University of Arkansas, and I always thought, wow, that would be cool to be a school lawyer. I didn't even know that schools had lawyers, but the issues that they see are so wide and so far-reaching. It's property, it's like, government, it's contractual issues, it's like all the stuff that I thought was cool. So I always wanted to do that, and then I had an opportunity to do that very quick, very early, and I think it has been to my benefit. I've learned a lot in my tenure at the medical school. It has been very a wealth of education and knowledge.
Do those around you, those you went to school with, do they find what you're doing surprising?
Surprising in the regard that maybe I didn't speak too much about this was being, the kind of stuff that I wanted to do. Just being a young college guy, law student, didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I mean, I don't think, I would like to think that those who knew me are not surprised when they pick up, NWA business and talk business and politics and see my name. I would hope that wouldn't surprise them.
So then how do you get from those areas or even where you are now, and I understand you don't want to give up your role at ACHE, but what prompts you to want to do this in addition to that? I mean, is there somebody in town who said, hey, kid, you'd be great at this, or?
Not at all. In fact, that question was asked to me in the hallway. The only reason I knew about this opportunity is my wife saw a Facebook post, and she was just kind of like, Tontitown wants a city attorney. And I don't know that she even thought that was information I cared about. But this has been something, municipal legal issues, municipal politics, this is just something that's interesting to me. I'm in a position in my career right now where I have the ability to do this on top of what I'm already doing. I've looked for these jobs, city attorney appointment roles, for 12 years now, and I knew I didn't have the experience to probably get either a phone call or whatever. So this has been on my radar as just something I would like to have done for a long time. The other answer to that question is, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I've never been the guy who can just do personal injury law or, God bless them, family law, those types of issues, just doing the same things. I love the law. I'm kind of a legal nerd. So you give me the opportunity to open up a whole new area of law in my daily practice, like that's just really interesting to me, really fascinating. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to grow a law firm. Like I don't have a law firm, it's just me. So I'm not doing this to try to increase revenue of a law firm. I'm truly just doing this because I think it would be an interesting, fun thing to do.
So then, based on your experiences and the vast knowledge base you have, the accolades you've received, what specifically qualifies you, or as we look at you, why should we be saying, based on this guy's experiences, connect those dots for me?
There is an incredible amount of overlap between being general counsel for a medical school, 350 employees, 1,000 students, just growing all over the Fort Chaffee area of Fort Smith, just immense growth. There's so much correlation between being a general counsel and a city attorney. I report to the chief executive officer and president. I serve at his pleasure. I have a board of trustees with various committees that I give advice to. There are deans, provost, chief of police, department heads that I advise every day. So this isn't exactly a leap for me. Of course, private medical education versus public municipal governance, right? Those are separate issues, but what you're doing is the same. People are coming to me because hopefully they know I'm going to give them good advice that they can trust. So I think there's a whole lot of overlap.
So then if you're in my seat,
yeah,
what concerns would you have about you?
Of course, you can look at me and say, well, he's never been in municipal legal affairs before. This would be my first foray. I'm going to have to review a whole new, set of statutes and set of rules. That's not a big deal. That's what lawyers do, right? So you shouldn't have any hesitation about me not knowing the area of law. I just think with any new experience, I'm going to be coming in missing context, missing, I don't know. I watched a couple of council meetings on YouTube just to do my due diligence, but you guys have been in your roles and positions for a long time. You have a wealth of context and experience that I won't have. So I think that would be the big sort of challenge for me, would be just getting up to speed. But it's a time issue, and I'd be more than committed to putting the time in.
But you're a dad and a husband.
Well, sure. So I mean, as you know, balancing many things at one time is sort of what I do.
And so I once heard, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. You seem to be that busy person. But from our standpoint, looking at a guy who doesn't really have a firm, as you say, it's just you. Mm-hmm. There's no firm behind you.
Sure.
How do we know that you're not dropping things that are in your world would be smaller balls you're juggling, right?
Yeah, sure.
How do we ensure that we get what we need from our city attorney if it's you?
Right. So I think just making sure you're staying on top of what you need out of me, right? I'm going to be communicative. You're going to have my cell phone number. If there's something that you need out of me, I'm going to ask what it is and when you need it by, right? If I'm not doing those things, you should find another city attorney. I'm going to be timely and responsive. I've been juggling lots of hats for a long time. So I just think that's the answer I have to give, is that if I'm not pulling what you need me to do, you need to tell me or get someone else.
Yeah. And then what other cities have you engaged in? I mean, you sued Mountain Home, so there's some engagement with the municipality there. But what other cities have you engaged with for good or maybe not so good from their perspective?
Legal aid, when I was a 25-year-old lawyer that was really drinking from a fire hose, I was, really, really trying to do justice for everyone that walked in the door. And I'm sure I know I had some fights with Springdale about a couple of things that they had done. But then very quickly after that, I moved sort of to the other side of the house, which was I was working for the University of Arkansas, having to deal with the FOIA requests and the threats of lawsuits, and sort of sitting on the other side of the table, which I've been on ever since, is sort of the more defensive posture type issues rather than trying to go out and make a good suit for someone and get a result.
Now, when you were a Title IX coordinator, and correct me if I'm wrong here, there was at least one case that you sort of pushed forward, right?
There was a case in which the University of Arkansas was sued, in which I was named as a defendant.
Okay.
The buck stopped with me with Title IX compliance. Okay. So someone felt that they didn't get good resolution.
And that was later dropped, if I remember.
It was later found in our favor with the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals. With the federal court in the Western District of Arkansas. It was appealed to the Eighth Circuit and remanded, and the university settled. But from my perspective, there's a federal judge's opinion out there that said that the University of Arkansas, under my direction, navigated the law basically perfectly. So, people pick up the article, well, Tyler and the U of A were sued, but there's a lot more to that story.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So what experience do you have with ordinances and resolutions?
Not as much, right? So ordinances and resolutions, yeah. So as they affect the medical school, one of the things that school has done, and this is very clear, is partnering with other, businesses, bringing in restaurants and all sorts of retail establishments. So having to navigate what our lessees or tenants may be required to do. For instance, we have a entertainment district, which has with it its own set of ABC alcohol laws and regulations. So picking up a statute book or a policy or a rule book and figuring out how it applies is something I'm very comfortable and familiar with. Maybe not municipal ordinances, but sort of the corollary for that.
And so when you're tasked with being the person who is drafting those ordinances and resolutions, are you comfortable with that? How are you going to get up to speed on that?
Yeah, I'm not one that drafts a lot of those documents, but I'll take on that like any new challenge, which is that you go out and you read a lot of old ones and you figure out how they look and how they're structured and what the law is, and then you draft them. I mean, for legal sufficiency, right? So I'll make sure that I, acclimated with that world if chosen.
Okay, and then what experience do you have with things like sewer and water infrastructure agreements, those sorts of things?
Very little. If it's some form of sort of like municipal private agreement, I mean, it's just going to be, for me, a matter of strong contract drafting, right? Making sure what is put onto paper is what is in the city's best interest and, protects all of the legal interests of the city. So whether it's, a document that I look at every day or a brand new document, still to me, the sort of framework for what is necessary applies, right? So I'll just do what I continue to do every day.
And what we're specifically looking for right now is someone who can represent the city at city council meetings. So as you've already pointed out, you would report directly to our CEO, the mayor of the city. You do work at the mayor's pleasure, right? Sure. Approved by the city council. So there are some moving parts in that regard. 6 of us, the mayor, the mayor's staff, her office, and the other offices that you see represented here. And then there's also a planning side. Brad at the end there runs our planning department, but we have a planning commission as well. And so the 3rd Tuesday of the month is our planning commission meetings. Fourth Tuesday are the planning commission meetings. And we would expect that we get help in those areas as well. Do you have any concern about any of what I just mentioned?
No, not at all. in addressing that sort of, if I may real quick, the sort of solo practitioner versus firm issue.
Yes.
The difference.
Thank you for picking up that mantle. I'm glad that you
Oh,
did.
yeah, absolutely. So the difference with me, of course, will be that you're not really competing with a bunch of other clients. Of course, I have a full-time job, which I've been given permission to be here. It's not a secret to anyone. I have a full-time job and I'll have to balance the requirements of being general counsel for medical school, but there's no layers. You're not going to have to call and set up an appointment to meet with me. You're not going to have to get on my calendar. You're going to have my cell phone number. At the same time, theoretically, I could have a 100-person law firm and I could send someone else to a city council meeting at every different meeting, right? But I don't think that's what anyone would want or expect. You're going to want continuity. You're going to want a relationship with an attorney you can trust. So I think that's the difference. Not to say that whoever you had before or whatever firm you had before was doing that. I don't know or care, but I just don't think you're going to want just a warm body in the seat. You're going to want someone you know and have a relationship with.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right.
I'm done with questions.
All right. How do you set, how would you set boundaries around political pressure or attempts to influence your opinion, your legal opinion?
Yeah, so like I kind of teased earlier, I don't think that you can get anywhere in the practice of law without being trustworthy and ethical. I mean, I think even one sort of blip on your reputation is harmful. So for me, I've always operated every situation making sure I'm fulfilling my ethical obligations as an attorney, and then of course doing what is legal and correct and right. So that's just to say, in being a city attorney, I think, at least in my mind, the roles are clear, giving sound legal advice to the city. I'm outside of politics to the degree possible. I'm not someone who should be able to be swayed in one direction or another. The law is going to be what the law is. In my opinion, is going to be what my legal opinion is. And as I'm going to do as I've done for the past 12 years, no one gives a legal opinion under my law license but me. So that's just going to be something I'm going to be very comfortable and seasoned with, is that, right? Like when I put an opinion in a paper or an email or whatever, like my name's at the end. So I'm mindful of what I say and I'm mindful of who I talk to. That's just the way I've operated.
Thank you.
There's a lot of controversy, as you know, in the world of Title IX and university compliance. So not to say people were trying to unduly influence me, but I know how to make a decision which is going to make about 50% of people mad every time. So I'm pretty comfortable with, those pressures of doing what other people want you to do. And I'm pretty good at saying no.
So if we, and this happens often, if there is an issue and we need you immediately, how quickly would you be able to respond to questions, emails?
So I'm going to qualify my answer, which is going to be instantly, other than when, I need to say, hey, let me get back to you on that, or hey, I'll text you. If someone calls me and I'm unavailable, you're going to know pretty quickly. I'm in a meeting. I'll get back to you when I'm done. If I'm going to be out of town for an extended period of time, I'll make sure you have my travel schedule. A lot can be done with technology. A lot can be done with Teams. A lot can be done with Zoom. Even when I'm physically out of state. Like I took a Board of Trustees Executive Committee call from Disney World this summer, right? I don't try to make that my practice, try to be with my family when I'm with them, but technology has given so much advantage and opportunity there. So you're going to have access to me at all times.
Okay, I was going to ask about if you're not able to be at a meeting, if you're sick or can't be here, how would you handle that?
Right. If I was in your position and that happened, I would just navigate that. You don't have a city attorney right now, right? So there are going to be times when you're just not going to have someone in that seat, and you're going to have to say, well, we'll address that situation, or we'll get an answer with that when we have the chance to talk to Tyler. And again, that's not going to be ever more than a business day or two. There would have to be some very unique situation for me to be completely in a position where I couldn't be reached, and you would know that in advance. Or, I'm like incapacitated or something, so you need a new city attorney anyway, right? I'm a pretty good millennial in that you can get me a text have 4 emails, you can always get me.
Oh, I was talking about at an actual meeting.
Physically, yeah. So if I wasn't here physically and I was maybe at a conference or something, whatever the situation was, I would still be in a position where I could walk out and take a phone call from you. Or I don't know the technological setups, but it looks like you have screens back here. You could always put me on Teams or Zoom, even if it's just for a, hey, let's get our city attorney on the phone and see what he thinks type situation. That would be my recommendation. And again, that would just be for the specific instances where you couldn't have me here in person for whatever reason.
All right. I know that this has been asked.
Madam Mayor, may I follow up on that question if you don't mind?
Oh, absolutely.
So you being lead counsel of the Arkansas College or general counsel and vice president, that would basically take priority if we had issues here at the city. I mean, your representation there at the school would probably be your top priority.
Ethically speaking, right? I mean, that is my full-time job.
Sure.
That's going to be where I'm going to be physically at. And I think issues that are going to be probably more prevalent from there. But this would be no different than if I was just Tyler Farrar, attorney at law with a shingle hanging outside, right? I would still be balancing the city versus, the guy who walked in my office and needs a divorce or whatever, right? So those are going to be issues unless you just have a full-time city attorney, like a big city, who that's all they do, right? So,
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's like, oh, I'm getting a phone call from, Mr. Spurlock, I can't answer this until 5:01. Like, it won't be that way. There will be opportunities. My present employer is, again, aware that I'm here and I have permission to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
Well, my last question's already been asked, and that was, why do you want to be Tontitown city attorney? I think he answered that question.
I didn't mean to ask that question.
No, I didn't.
But ask it again.
Well, I
Let's see
hate
if he
to
gives a
answer it
different
with
answer.
that I'm a legal nerd, but the answer really is, to me, because I want to do more, just stuff, just to expand my reach within the legal field in Arkansas. I really just do. I don't know that you hear this very often. I really just do love being a lawyer. I think it's the only thing I could have done in life. I love being someone that people can say, well, I think we need Tyler's opinion. I think he may know what to do. It's just something I enjoy. I don't know.
Does anyone else, do you have any?
Yeah, I do have at least one. So in order to be consistent and to be transparent, stepping into this role as an attorney, you're dealing with people, obviously, and you deal with people everywhere. But every now and then, I'm sure you've faced this before, you're going to be giving advice to a body, council members like myself, the mayor, and we don't like your advice.
Yeah.
Right? Your advice, it might be legal, but it stinks. We hate the advice, right? I don't want to
hate the outcome.
Right. I don't want to take that advice.
Sure.
So what do you do in the midst of a situation where, and maybe it's an ethical answer, I don't know, where we're saying, I don't like that answer, we want to go in a different direction?
What I can do and will do is make sure that you at least have all the information you need to make the decision, right? I've said for a long time, is my role as an attorney, whether it's private practice, medical school, U of A, like, I can't make people take legal advice. I can just make sure that I give you a well-reasoned, clear, and articulate answer to the questions you have. If at the end of the day you go in a different direction, you are the decision makers. In fact, it would be unethical for me to make the legal advice and the decision. Someone else has to make the decision. So, I would roll with that and go on. It happens to me. I'm not trying to be flippant, but that happens to me all the time. People say, well, okay, noted, and then go a different direction. And maybe it's not illegal. Maybe it doesn't, expose us to any risk, but I still did what I was supposed to have done, which is give clear legal advice that someone had the opportunity to take.
And then what do you do if they don't take your advice and 6 months from now there's a lawsuit?
Well, it would be hard to say, I told you so, but that's not my job. My job is to, in that situation, give the advice and deal with the risks and exposure and lawsuits as they come. So, in hindsight, always is 2022, right? So, there are situations, and I've seen this in my other career, like, well, if we would have listened to me, we wouldn't have been here now. But that doesn't get anywhere for anyone, right? You just have to take the situations in stride and deal with the facts as you have them, I think. So that would be my answer, is we would move on.
And then just from a political standpoint, and I don't mean left, right, down the middle, red, blue, whatever. I don't mean that per se.
Sure.
But we are in a situation here in Tontitown, 125 years old or so, and we've made a lot of mistakes. A lot of those were before any of us got here. Several of those have happened since we got here. Probably everyone at this table were here when several of those were made. And yet, the idea is to try to do the best we can. And I believe the truth here is that every single one of us want what's best for the city. As fiduciaries of the city, at least those of us on council, we take that very, very seriously. But some of the decisions that have been made have sort of what could look like a political lean one way or the other, whether it's a liberal lean or it's a libertarian lean or whatever.
Yeah.
In the midst of those sorts of things, how do you navigate that? Or, I mean, obviously, we all have opinions about all manner of things in the world. So how do you navigate that in the midst of a job like this?
Right.
That's the end of the question. I put an ellipses at the end of that.
Yeah,
question
so
mark.
I think my role hypothetically in that situation is to just be a strong sounding board, someone that doesn't get involved in, I don't mean to seem like I'm going to be devoid of emotion, but like if you come to me, I'm going to give you an answer and an opinion, and I'm not going to play into, and I've seen this in other points in my career too, right? Like litigation is highly contentious. People you're mad at the U of A for certain Title IX situations, but knowing that I have to do my job and operate like with a cool head and even handle all that stuff is just being that consistent person who's not going to, because I think the role is outside to all degrees possible politics. So being, tied to the role and its obligations as being a strong legal advisor to the city. I think that has to be my focus if selected.
And then if for whatever reason you don't work out,
Sure.
You hate it, we hate you.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest, things don't always work out. What do you do there? How do you navigate that?
Yeah. So I mean, if I hate it, I'm going to tell you that I hate it. If you hate me, I hope that you tell me that you hate me. I hope you don't.
We'll tell you in all manner of ways if we.
Yeah, no, I know. And look, I'm an attorney, right? So people tell me that every day. If we reach that bridge, or cross that bridge, we'll definitely deal with it. But I've never been in a professional role where someone they fired me or, didn't like my personality. I mean, if that happens, we'll address it, but it's just not something I would envision. I think, largely speaking, I know you've got me in a podium in a suit. I'm pretty easygoing. I think I'm pretty easy to get along with. Again, I try to give clear legal advice that is not playing into various sides or politics. The law is what it is, and my opinion will be what it is. So I think just fulfilling those roles as honestly as I can is my responsibility.
Fair enough. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think that I do. I think you've asked me some very good questions, and I did a lot of due diligence. I looked up, your website and watched a few YouTube videos, and I think I know at least how the structure of the city is. So no immediate questions out of me, but you have me. I'm open for more questions from anyone. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Farrar.
Sure.
Anybody?
All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you
Yeah,
coming in today.
absolutely.
And we will be in contact with you, hopefully by the end of the week or so.
Okay. Well,
If
very
not,
good.
it may be next week, just depending on how things go.
That's fine.
Thank you for
Okay.
coming up.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ready
Thank
to
you all.
adjourn? Ready to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Megan, grab him.
Hi. Grab him.
So Tyler,